Yeah, boy.
What's going on, guys? Today I have a really special outward build for you. This is the Blue Ranger, and honestly it's 10 times better than I thought it would be. Imagine if you were able to become immune to 80% of all damage in the game. Now, imagine you can do that for almost every fight, and have an easy way to heal without potions. All this while dealing good damage, and not needing to focus on any crazy enchants or the totems from Primal Ritualist. This is one of the most defensive builds I have ever seen in Outward, and here is how you can set it up yourself. At the start of the game, you want to use a sword. I would recommend grabbing an iron sword from the blacksmith and then talking to Burek near the gate to learn the skill Puncture for free. This skill makes enemies weak to physical damage by 25%, and its damage is really nice as well. As for mana, you want to take 3 total points, granting you 60 mana. With a few extra buffs from our skill trees and faction, we end up with 120 mana, which seems like more than enough, but our helmet will increase the cost of all our magic skills, so it's pretty important to get that higher amount. Your faction will need to be Blue Chamber Collective. This is primarily for the Lantern of Souls. I know this isn't used often, and originally this build was my way of making it work in a decent build. Little did I know how good this would turn out. You get more health from this faction as well, which is never bad when designing a tank type of playstyle. For those of you who don't know how to get this purple lantern, you'll need to be nice to Roland. He can be found on the docks in Cierzo and near a pole in Berg. Every time you interact with him, try to be nice and uplift his spirits. He will eventually take on a Lich by himself, and if he wins, you're rewarded more mana or the lantern. Choose the lantern for this item. The Lantern of Souls raises the player's elemental resistance by 10 overall, and 20 for ethereal, but only when equipped, and having it on your backpack does not count as being equipped. You obviously want some good skill trees, and since we'll be going for defense, we want Cabal Hermit, Rune Sage, and Warrior Monk. In Cabal Hermit, it doesn't really matter what you grab, as we just need the breakthrough, but Wind Infuse is never a bad call. For Rune Sage, you need all the skills except Internalized Lexicon. You must take Runic Prefix instead, as it gives us a hefty buff to defense if we activate Runic Protection, or the blue and purple runes. Instead of 2 protection and 15% physical resistance, you have 3 protection, 20% physical resistance buff, and 10 elemental resistance in every element. You must have a lexicon to activate the buff, but with the way we're going to set up our hotbar, this won't be an issue. As for Warrior Monk in the swamp, you need Master of Motion. Do not take Perfect Strike, as that is an attack skill, and the other grants us again more defense. With this passive, you're granted 10 elemental resistance while your Discipline boon is active. Brace and Focus grant us this almost 24/7, so it's really easy to keep that buff up. With these 3 skill trees, we have a lot of defense already, and you could focus on combat more often, as you really only have 2 attack skills with Puncture and Counterstrike. The armor set we want to wear is the Blue Sand set. This can be crafted from the blacksmith in Cierzo with some money and blue sand. A very easy set to get that is excellent for defense. It has good protection and physical resistance, but the icing on the cake is that it comes with 20 elemental resistance to all elements if you wear the full set. I think you can kind of see where we're going with this. Eventually, we become immune to elemental damage entirely by stacking the buffs all the way to 100% immunity, which means no elemental attack can hurt us. The Blue Sand set should be enchanted with Aegis as well, which will grant us more protection. We're gonna have enough to take little damage from physical attacks, but enemies such as a Manticore deal so much damage that it's impossible to become immune to it like this. We're still reducing it by a high amount to where you can mostly ignore it though. Also, the Blue Sand set looks the most like a Blue Ranger and isn't too bulky, which I really like. The weapons for this build are obviously Lightmender's Lexicon for the buff and Lantern of Souls for the extra defense. You have two choices for your main hand, as I was originally going to grab Skycrown Mace for massive impact on hits. However, I realized the one weakness of this build is its damage. We're only getting a damage buff from Puncture and the Cool Boon, which isn't really enough for me. So instead, grab Brand. This is arguably the most OP or broken weapon in Outward, as it buffs itself while you attack enemies. It'll apply pain and chill after a few swings, which makes enemies weaker to physical and frost damage by 25%. Plus, with the Cool Boon active, it gets more damage, and while you use a Fire Varnish, you burn the enemy and shred through health bars. Brand ended up being perfect with this gear, as you don't need to have large amounts of damage bonus for it to be top tier. Also, it is again blue, and kinda looks like a weapon a Power Ranger would use. As for anything else we need, there are three things. The Luxury Tent is really nice, as blue sand armor has pretty hefty stamina penalties. The negative 20% stamina cost will keep us out of the red numbers and allow us to attack longer. Brigand's Backpack can be grabbed from the Friendly Immaculate in Caldera, and it buffs physical damage by 15% while equipped. Since it has no dodge restrictions, we can keep it on at all times and provide ourselves with a much smoother gameplay style. The one downside to this pack is that we can't have a lantern equipped on it, but we're going to use the Lantern of Souls in our offhand, and could always use Runic Lantern too. Light is not a problem at all, and you'll never even think about it. The final piece of the puzzle is Elemental Resistance Potions. These are essential as they bring us from 90 elemental resistance to 100, making us completely immune. Without them, you will take hardly any damage from elements, but it's still damage. For arena bosses, it's better to have these potions saved up and just be completely safe from all their attacks. Buy them from the Alchemist in Monsoon, as that is the only merchant with a 100% chance of selling them. Also, you can craft them with Smoke Root, Occult Remains, and Crystal Powder in an alchemy kit. I recommend just saving up a bunch of Occult Remains and Crystal Powder, and then grabbing the Smoke Root as you find it. It can be gathered in Enmerker Forest or looted from all the Hive-like enemies. Now you have the build set up, and once you beat your faction quest, you'll get Peacemaker's Elixir, which grants you more health, stamina, and mana. All in all, this is a very well-rounded build with high amounts of everything. Stamina will be the hardest to manage if you don't keep the Luxury Tent buff up or have Tartines, but it's pretty good considering this is a tank build. As you're about to walk into a fight, you need to do the following. Remember, this is a buff-based build, and usually these will last until the end of a fight, letting you stay immune for the entire time you're in harm's way. Drink a stamina potion. Drink an elemental immunity potion. Drink water. Activate all boons including Cool, Warm, Blessed, Possessed, Mist, Discipline, and Enrage. Activate blue then purple runes for runic protection. Place a Fire Varnish on Brand because the burning is great to have. All three of our skill trees grant us extra elemental defense. Our armor has elemental defense. The elemental potion and lantern grant us just enough to have 100% resistance to all elemental attacks. And because the blue sand armor is nice and tanky, you're immune to any lower tier physical attack. Enemies with really high physical damage still hurt, but nothing can instantly kill you, and it's going to be hard to find anything that can even kill you in 4 hits. Brand deals all the damage you need to win fights, and the boons we need for immunity also buff any damage type you choose to use. I went around fighting arena bosses and it was hysterical. Enemies that I had had trouble with in the past just dealt no damage, or only 2 hit points to my health. And I had no health regen while testing this, so you could even do better. Plus, you can always grab the Lexicon to get a quick heal in during the fight, because Runic Protection backwards heals you. As long as you have the Lantern and Lexicon on your hotbar, this is a super easy build to play, and mana potions are so easy to make that you should always be able to buff when you need to. Do be aware that certain enemies will debuff you if they get too many hits in. Sword golems in particular inflict the player with pain, weakening you to physical damage. We'll still have such a high defense that our stats are effective, but it's something to watch out for. Also, you might be thinking, this is just too much upkeep. Not really. Most of this is stuff you should always be doing before a fight anyway. The Blue Ranger just takes those buffs to their maximum potential. Hopefully you enjoyed this build display, as I had a ton of fun putting it together. Blue Sand Armor is really strong, as you can tell, and funnily enough, it used to have even better stats. There's nothing quite like playing a mage who dies in 2 hits to then being hit in the face repeatedly without a care in the world. Oh, and this can be done without Definitive Edition as well. All of this came from skill trees and items that were originally in the game. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you would, comment down below whether or not I should have used Skycrown Mace. I honestly think Brand is just too good here, but both are excellent weapons. Keep pushing back the Scourge, and I'll catch you next time.